Dr. Nance, what's good in your hood? How are you?
Hey Kiki, everything is great in my hood. Thank you for having me. I'm just super excited and grateful to be on this video with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying yes. And you and I have talked a few times, and I've even posted some of your advice as to mental health and therapy because you work closely with Roots Way, which
Mhm.
has also been their friend of the show, and I'm even a board member of Roots Way. So love the connection there. We're here to talk about how mental health professionals or even therapists need an outlet. So
Yeah,
the burnout, and
yeah.
then how it links to vitamin C. So you have a lot of platforms, but this platform in particular, tell us about why it's so important that the community knows your therapist is the one that has this bucket that holds
Mhm.
all of our stuff, right?
Yes, yes.
So the therapist is left at the end of the day to take all of our stuff in this bucket
Mhm.
and release it. How
Yes.
do they do that? And why don't we understand that they too have buckets to release?
Right.
I know it's a
Well,
little question, but
no, no, no. It's great questions, and important questions. We're
yeah,
human, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a hard time doing that, and I became passionate about it because I struggled with what we call compassion fatigue, which is the secondary trauma that results from helping people who experience a lot of pain, suffering, and trauma, which is what therapists, social workers, healthcare professionals is what we do pretty much every day. And now we're in the middle of a global health pandemic. Well, racist pandemic, all types of pandemics that we find
right,
ourselves in. And there's more of a need for our services. So the expectations become even higher, the demands become even higher. So we find ourselves burning both ends of the candle.
mm,
Um, I am grateful to, if there is a silver lining in this, is that mental health there has been more of a light being shined on mental health services.
right,
However, many of us are burned out. We've experienced so much trauma over the past year and a half, and we don't even realize it. It's become a part of the norm.
mhm,
And something that does not get talked about is how this impacts Black therapists, how this impacts Black social workers, how this impacts Black healthcare professionals. Because as we've seen, we know this has been going on for centuries, but there's been more attention and more awareness brought to it lately. So with us, we're seeing this in the media, and we're grieving and we're hurting because we're seeing, and then we're expected to just show up for everyone else, and really trying to find that space to take care of ourselves and to grieve. So there's this expectation for us to be available for our clients, this expectation to be available in a workplace, this expectation to show up and be available for the community. When do we get to show up for ourselves? And when we don't show up for ourselves, and we're walking around with these empty fuels, it's like walking around with an empty or an overdrawn bank account. We know what happens when you walk around like that too long, or if you're driving on empty and that light is on. Eventually it's going to clunk out. It's going to give out on you. And that's the same thing with us. We're humans. We're not machines.
mhm. So I can hear people who are not within our community that would say, why is this so significant? Black therapists, Black healthcare workers, why is it so significant that we, the community, pay attention to their mental health? Everyone's mental health matters, right? Because that's basically the go-to comment. And they also need to understand what is the message? Why is this so significant?
Yeah. Well, that it's almost like the whole all lives matter
Right,
message.
right,
And so again, all therapists, all mental health therapists, all healthcare professionals, lives and health and mental health can't matter until Black mental health therapists and social workers lives and mental well-being matter. I've worked for organizations where I have been the only Black therapist. I've been the only Black social worker, and the expectations are very different. And a lot of times it's very covert, it's very subtle, and it's a microaggression. A lot of times they don't even realize that they're doing it. But when we're expected to go into communities that or counterparts or Caucasian counterparts are afraid to go into, that's putting more on us. And it's not that we don't want to help. Absolutely, we want to help, but we want help. We're like, hey, we're over here, we're exhausted, we're expected to, to do all the heavy lifting. And you're thinking that, well, Sharise got it. She can go help her people. She understands her people more than we do. But if that's the case, why did you get in this field? Why did you sign up for this job if you are not willing to go out and be in the trenches with us?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say to people who bring up that argument of Black mental health therapists or social workers or healthcare workers.
So congratulations that on the movement of the swag awards. And I know that it's passed, but this is actually a moment of recognition for those amazing, and there's Bo playing with his toy because he feels it right now is the perfect time to do that. So anyway, so this is a day or a moment where you recognize those men and women, those healthcare workers, Black healthcare workers who step up to the plate with their buckets, full, half full, overflown, and just showing them how amazing they are and that they matter. Tell me about the SWAG Awards.
Absolutely. The SWAG Awards, it stands for Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness. My husband actually came up with that acronym because just, I guess, spinning off from compassion fatigue and secondary trauma that affects us so much, social workers are usually the unsung heroes. Many of us are just in the trenches. We're working in so many different facets in the community. We're in education, we're in medical care, we're in mental health, we're everywhere. But a lot of times we don't get recognized. And many of us don't even want it. When we were, making the calls like, hey, you've been recognized, some people are like, no, that's okay, I don't want it, because we're not even used to it, and obviously you're not getting into this line of work because you're looking for, kudos or attaboys or recognition or anything like that. You're getting into this because you care, because it's not a secret that many people in this field are not making a whole lot of money. So the reason why I created this, again, a spinoff from compassion fatigue, because I saw a need that we were getting burned out. And it's like, we need to recognize social workers. And there are people who have, created many award ceremony, but I really wanted to focus on social workers. I'm a social worker. I just happen to work in mental health. So I wanted to focus on social workers. And it's important for us to have that title protection. Doctors have title protection. Nurses have title protection. So people qualify when they are, bachelor's, master's, licensed, doctorate, social worker, and they've done great work in this field. And then this happened to happen in the middle of a pandemic. So it's even more important that we give this recognition, because something else, that may be unpopular, but I think it's important for us to shine a light on this, is that while we're recognizing the healthcare heroes, and thank you, because I cannot, thank them enough for the medical health care professionals and people on the front lines for the work that they've done, putting their lives on the line, to save people that I love, try to save people that I love. I thank them every day. And don't leave us out of that, social workers and mental health professionals, because many times we're the glue that are helping to hold them together when they need an outlet, when they need to process their difficult thoughts and emotions, when they're ready to take a bridge. Like, social workers and mental health professionals are there, and we have a waiting list. So we are, a part of that too. And I just want to make sure that we remain included and that we continue to be recognized and celebrated for the hard work that we do. So this is the second annual Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness Award. So I'm super excited, looking forward to the wonderful people who are going to be recognized this year, and the event that we're going to hold in March is the social work National Social Work Month. That's why we picked March, to make sure that we, kind of made that month significant and made the date significant.
I'm excited for you. And one thing is, you don't know who is a mental health or medical care worker unless they're in their scrubs. And like, social workers don't wear the hat, they don't wear the badges. And I'll just share a scenario with you. I was in a pharmacy, and there was a gentleman who he had a intellectual challenge. He had some disability, and the family that was with him were trying to restrain him because he wanted to speak to everybody that was in the store. And so there was a woman that was walking into the store, and he stood in front of her and he was like, "Hi." And she was like, "Hello, how are you?" He said, "I'm fine. My name is Brian." And she says, "Hi, Brian. How are you?" And my name is Celeste. "Hi, Celeste. And this is my family. This is Amy." And she stood there and talked with him. And I'm watching, and I'm like, she has to be a social worker or someone who deals with mental health, or just a person that naturally welcomes just anybody. And because not everybody does that. And I said that to say, and here's Bo wanting his time. I said that to say, social workers are our unsung heroes. They're the people who take on so much, and they don't brag and boast. They don't want people, making a big old fuss about them, but they do deserve just that one day. You can just allow us to just love on you that one day, that one time, although you need 365 days of appreciation. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and you're hearing what Dr. Nance is saying, you run into a healthcare worker, a mental health care worker, a social worker, a therapist, you find out who they are, and they happen to be African-American, give them a hug. Give them a hug. They got a full bucket. You know what I mean? And they may not have anywhere to pour that bucket. And all therapists, yes. In particular, our African-American therapists out there and social workers out there are dealing with a lot of lows, not just with your stuff, but their stuff too. The struggle doesn't stop with everybody in the world. They got it too. So I know it's a lot. I said a lot. I'm a little emotional, but I have a sister who's a therapist, and I have friends who are therapists. I admire you and everything that you do. And I see a therapist, so I know the buckets are full.
So do I. And so do I. Every therapist needs a therapist.
Yes.
None of us are exempt. We're human. We have thoughts, and emotions too, and we have our own mental health struggles. None of us are exempt. And it helps to make you a better therapist too.
Yeah. You go in that therapy session, and your therapist is like, it's time to schedule another appointment.
There's not much we haven't seen or heard.
Maybe they just need a timeout. The therapist might need a timeout. They need to
we do. We do. I call it the trauma filter. We absolutely do.
I thank you so much for sharing that, because not everybody understands that. We think that you guys are made of Teflon or whatever you call it, not kryptonite, but made of something that is a superpower. And
almost like an armor.
Yeah. And so that's not the case. You all are human too. So thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us know about the SWAG Awards coming up in March. And telling us what's good in your hood. And we'll have the link to your website and everything at kdkaradio.com. Thank you for telling us what's good in your hood.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.